A whole new world. Would you like to go on a magic carpet ride? Well, that's what this lesson 107 reminds me of. Have you seen that movie, Aladdin? Well, that's kind of the time period and where it takes place in India during the Mughal Empire. So let's talk about this empire. Let's talk about India. So we're going to go back before Christ quickly because before Christ, they had a religion there, and in the small jungle tribes and all the different tribes, they had a religion that they called Hinduism. And Hinduism had no single really belief system or no book to read. It just had many doctrines and many deities, many gods. In fact, you could just make up whichever god you wanted to. So they had thousands of them and just picked which one. They also believed in reincarnation, which meant but after you died, you could come back as something else so that you could work out your salvation to try to be better to get to God. It sounds like a very much of a works, way to get to God, because we can't get to God by works because he's holy. That's why God came down to us through Jesus Christ. Such amazing. The gospel is so amazing. But let's talk about this Hinduism. The Hindus had temples, a lot of different temples, and they had social classes, which mean if you were born into a rich family, then you would stay rich. And if you were born into a poor family, you would stay poor. And the only way that you could get out of your poverty would be if you were reincarnated. So nobody really helped the poor because they believed the poor, that was their lot, and that they had to work out their way to get to God, or to get to the many thousands of gods that they had. Kind of a weird religion, huh? But that's what they did back then. Well, during the 1500s, there was a huge change. They'd say a whole new world. Yeah, they did have kind of a whole new world. Because at that time, another religion came in, and this religion had one God, but this religion still had a lot of different beliefs. It was like one God, but then still no way to really get to him. And this religion was called Muslim or Islam. So what happened during this time was the Mughal. Now, I always get mixed up because Mughal sounds like Mongol. Remember we studied the Mongol rulers? Well, the reason it sounds like that is because it is. You see, the rulers, the Islam came from the Mongolians. In fact, we'll find out the first ruler that came with Islam was related to Genghis Khan. Remember Genghis Khan? He conquered almost the whole world back then, on his little ponies from the Tibetan plateaus and from China. Genghis Khan, he was a fighter and a warrior. And then when he didn't have they didn't have any food to drink or food to eat or water to drink, they would drink their horse's blood out of their veins. Oh, gross! I know. They were kind of gross. They were kind of like barbarians. Yeah. So they had come in now because Genghis Khan's great, I think 3 or 4 greats grandson came into India to rule. And his name was Hayruddin Muhammad. You can see he's very Muslim, huh? And he was a descendant, like I say, of Genghis Khan. He moved to India when he was 12 years old. He came from Afghanistan over there towards the Tibetan plateau that we're going to learn about. They called him Babur the tiger, actually, because he was a courageous, quick fighter like a tiger. He came in and he captured the capital city of India, Delhi at the time, in 1526. He took over the capital, and then he started taking over each one of those Hindu cities. He went all over India, traveled all over India because he wanted to unite under his rule, which basically was Islamic and not Hindu. Although he did not really persecute the Hindus. He just conquered them. He was a conqueror. And he ruled until 1530, ruled the Mughal Empire in India. That's what they called it. That was the beginning. He built this wonderful, wonderful city at Agra. You think, this barbarian wouldn't know how to build, but he did. He wanted everything amazing. So he had all these Hindu slaves, and he built this beautiful garden with running water wheels and everything of Agra, and he lived there, and he loved India. Well, he was the rich. The rich were very rich. He was that king, in that sense. He was the leader, the emperor, but the poor were still very poor. But he didn't persecute the Hindus like some of the Muslim rulers we'll see did. So Babur's son, whose name was Humayun, ruled 1540, and he was a very poor leader. He lost control. Some rebels came in from Afghanistan, took over for about 15 years, and then finally in 1555 he regained power. But 1 year after he regained power, he went to Agra, where Babur had his father had his palace, and he was walking up the palace library steps that were marble, and he slipped. Probably had been raining or something, and he slipped and he fell down and he hit his head, and he died. So his son, Akbar the Great, and that's the one you need to really know about, because he actually was the best ruler of India at this time. So he was Humayun's son, and he started ruling when he was 13 years old, and he reigned 49 years, which is a long reign. He recaptured the empire. He married a Hindu princess. He combined Muslim and Hindus together, and he allowed Hindus to even work for him, and he treated them fairly. He captured India, Pakistan, Nepal, Bangladesh, Takistan, Afghanistan, Myanmar, Bhutan. My goodness. He conquered a lot of land and made this Mughal empire just huge, huge. And he brought stability to this dynasty, and he tolerated other religions. He employed the Hindu people, but he said Islam was his religion, even though his wife was a Hindu. So they had kind of a combination there. He had great building projects. He increased the library with many manuscripts and artwork and gardens and sacred towers and all. He built these things. Sacred flowers, I should say. Sacred towers of flowers, actually. His son, then he died, and his son, Jahangir, which we call him Jahan, ruled from 1605 to 1627. And he had even bigger building projects. He had built palaces, monuments, gardens. He took in Persian art and all kinds of artists. Urdu was the official language then. He illustrated the history of his reign. He made sure they had artists painted everything that he did. He enjoyed art and music. It was pretty time of a peace with him. As a prince, he grew up playing music, and he rode white elephants all the time. And he even had falconry. He actually he taught the falcons tricks and everything. Falcons were his pets. He was a great archer. He had archery. He wore beautiful jewelry, especially all these thumb rings and rings with gold and jewels in them. He made beautiful mirrors for the palace all over, and he really got into the silk industry and textiles and ivory and jade and gold coins. Man, he was extremely wealthy. And then he built one of the wonders of the world this time. If you were in Disneyland and you went on the ride soaring over the world, you would see it even today. He built the Taj Mahal. Jahan, like I said, he was the grandson of Akbar, and he ruled until 1658. He had a number of wives, but he built the tomb for his special wife, Mumtaz. And she died in 1629. So he built this. It's actually a tomb, but it's called the Taj Mahal, and it's so, so beautiful. And I'm going to take a little break because I have someone come into the door and we'll go on with the Taj Mahal.